Dick Cheney. He says that, of course, we should have had the option of being able to waterboard the Christmas Day bomber, despite all good evidence that what we did, in fact, worked solidly, significantly, etc. But he's not shaken from his convictions. Let's go to clip number 3.
If you have somebody in custody like Abdul Muttalib, after just trying to blow up an airliner, and you think he has information on another attack, I mean, do you think that those enhanced interrogation techniques should have been used? I mean, do you think that he should have been, for instance, subject to everything, including waterboarding?
Well, I think the professionals need to make that judgment. We've got people we had in our administration, I'm sure they're still there, many of them were career personnel, who are experts in this subject. And they are the ones that you ought to turn somebody like Abdul Muttalib over to. Let them be the judge of whether or not he's prepared to cooperate and how they can best achieve his cooperation.
But you believe they should have had the option of everything up to and including waterboarding?
I think you ought to have all of those capabilities on the table. Now, President Obama has taken them off the table. You know, he announced when he came in last year that they would never use anything other than the U.S. Army manual, which doesn't include those techniques. I think that's a mistake.
All right, so let's understand the things that Dick Cheney is saying. One, the U.S. Army manual, using that as a mistake. That seems to be denigrating the U.S. Army manual, doesn't it? He says that's not sufficient. We need to go beyond what the United States normally does, which is, of course, what Bush and Cheney advocated for 8 straight years. Second of all, there was a central lie in what he just said there. He said we should let the professionals decide whether we should waterboard these people and torture them. And, well, he didn't use the word torture, but waterboarding is torture, according to all international and U.S. law. And the rest of the enhanced interrogation techniques. Now, is it really true that the professionals decided that during the Bush administration? That's the way it should go. No. In fact, all of the career JAGs in the different departments of the armed forces, those are the top lawyers in those departments, ones that say, hey, how should we execute our laws? How should we treat our detainees, our prisoners? How have we done this in the past? The professionals who get to decide this went to the White House and said, for the love of God, don't do these enhanced interrogations. They don't work, and they are counter to our laws and our principles. So when he says, oh, let the professionals decide, nonsense. They overruled all the professionals. How about the FBI? During the Bush-Cheney administration, the FBI said, please don't do it. If you do it, we know it doesn't work. We can't use it in court of law later to bring them to justice, and we don't want any part of it. Robert Mueller, picked by Bush, withdrew the FBI from the interrogations, saying this is, if you're going to do this, we don't want to be involved in it. Okay, the only guys that they can get to do it were a couple of guys, and I read the whole story on this. Okay, that used to train some of our soldiers in what would happen to you if you got tortured by the bad guys. Okay, and they brought in these guys, and Cheney and Rumsfeld made the decision to put them in charge. They'd never done any interrogations. They had no experience in how to get useful intelligence out of someone that was captured. All they knew was to train you how to guard our troops against torture. They flipped that on its head and used the torture against our detainees without being able to get any useful information out of them, without having any experience in getting useful information about them. They were not the professionals. Cheney purposely picked people who were not in decisions-making opportunity before and positions before, and that did not know how to get intelligence from detainees. So it's totally a lie when he says, oh, you just let the professionals decide. None of the professionals were in favor of that. Only Cheney and Rumsfeld were. And, of course, Bush, eventually. So, now, when it comes to the Christmas Day bomber, did they get useful information using the normal interrogation tactics we've used for all of our history in the United States, except for the Bush-Cheney years? Yes, absolutely. Now, let's go to Meet the Press, where Representative Schock, Republican, is going to claim that this was a terrible idea to do this along the lines of Dick Cheney. And then eventually Rachel Maddow and Harold Ford are going to come in, and Rachel's going to straighten them out again with facts. Let's go to clip number 7.
The top terrorism advisor to the president said this on this program last week.
I'm tiring of politicians using national security issues such as terrorism as a political football.
Are Republicans and Republican attacks against this administration helping al-Qaeda?
Absolutely not, and I think it's an insult to most Americans to suggest that their elected representatives who are carrying their views and the message of the majority of Americans to Washington and to this debate are somehow helping al-Qaeda. Mind you, these are many of these Democrats, including Mr. Brennan, who served in the last administration, faced many of these same attacks under then President Bush from the left. So the idea that we can't challenge the administration and their view on the fight on terrorism is completely
What happened to
bogus.
Democrats when they challenged President Bush in
Well,
the same way?
some of the same claims
Right.
were made against them. But at the end of the day, we're representing mainstream America and the majority of views. And whether it's closing Guantanamo Bay and moving it to the heartland of America, whether it's trying these folks in downtown New York, whether it's Mirandizing terrorists who come to this country to attack us, the majority of Americans have not do not believe that Obama and his administration is right on these policies.
So you don't support the way the president is prosecuting the war on terror?
No.
Well, can I just, I'm sorry though, what's the basis of the assertion that reading somebody their Miranda rights is unsafe? We
Well,
did that with
Rachel, you
every,
said
wait, hold on, we
yourself-
did that with every single person who has been arrested on terrorism charges since 9/11. Nobody's ever made an issue of it until the Obama administration and this case with Abdul Muttalib. Literally, what's the problem with being read your rights? That wasn't the problem before.
Well, first of all, you suggested earlier that reading someone's Miranda rights has never indicated that they talk less to our intelligence
We've never
folks.
heard that from the FBI.
The fact of the matter is we do know that after the Christmas Day bomber was read his Miranda rights, that he did in fact stop cooperating with our intelligence.
That's not true, actually. I mean, it's not what we know from the people who've been involved in it.
But there
It's
is-
just
but-
the
but-
factual basis of these assertions is so thin.
But
Rachel's right about that. In fact, I think when he was read the rights, the report suggested that he shared more information after. And that could be wrong, but the question...
Okay, let me tell you what the actual facts are, okay, because I'm not wrong. I know exactly what happened. Our intelligence community has shared that information, okay? Number one, we first interrogated him, the Christmas Day bomber, until he stopped talking. And once he stopped talking, we read him his Miranda rights. Now, we cannot use that information in court, but the professionals made the decision that it was more important to gather that intelligence than to be able to convict him later. Now, I'm not going to second guess him on that. I think maybe reading him his Miranda rights from the beginning might not be so bad, but I'm not even entirely sure about that. I actually believe real professionals should make that decision. So, and they did there. So we got a whole bunch of information. He talked for 9 hours, okay? And then once he stopped talking, they're like, well, there's no harm in now giving him his Miranda rights. They gave him his Miranda rights. And then, since we didn't torture him, his family came in and said, all right, we want to work with you guys because they don't want him getting the death penalty. And they're the ones who said in the first place, watch out for him. I think he's, been misdirected, misled, etc. by these al-Qaeda guys. And his family convinced him to talk even more. So after he was read his Miranda rights, he gave up even more information. And if we had tortured him, one, we couldn't use that in court. We couldn't bring him to justice. We would not have gotten the same level of cooperation or intelligence from his family or from him. So on the facts, Representative Schock is 100% wrong. Rachel is totally right. I mean, it's so rare that you see someone who's actually saying something true on these Sunday talk shows that when Rachel said it, I was like, oh, thank God, finally somebody stepped in and stopped this nonsense. Because I'm used to decades of Republicans just putting out lie after lie after lie, and nobody ever challenges them on it.